Okay, welcome to another show, Bluethentic. Adam Papel, your host, with Rocky. Good afternoon, good evening,
Good evening, all.
and a special guest. Welcome, Heath Buck from
The one and
My
only.
Blue Heaven.
Thanks, Adam. Thanks, Rocky, for having me on. It's a pleasure. It's a pleasure to have your company tonight. Hopefully I don't disappoint.
No, I don't
No,
think you. I don't think you will. I don't think you will.
no, you're amazing, Bucky. You're obviously been in the headlines lately, and we'll touch on that in a little while. But first of all, tell us about My Blue Heaven. Like, where did that name come from, and how did you become you're pretty well known now, a media creator.
Yeah, look, I suppose it goes right back. I mean, I've always been interested in the media. Studied film and media at university. Was always interested in it when I was in high school, and then I was lucky enough to start working in first community radio, covering VFL football, and then got an opportunity to work with SEN for a couple of years, and then moved across to K Rock Radio, covering AFL for 16 years, and had my loved every minute of doing that. But I was always like a fourth or fifth banana, you know what I mean? Like
Yeah,
I was a statistician. Unless you're a past player, you don't have a lot of credibility when you're a statistician. They gave me lots of opportunities. It wasn't like I was just reading out stats. I was in the rooms after the game, interviewing players, going to grand finals, going into state. So it was a great gig, fantastic team that I worked with. But I felt like something like this was always on the cards, like just having my own voice. And I don't know if I've ever shared this before, but I'll share it with you guys because the name itself came from my father who passed away when I started the channel in 2018, and I just thought My Blue Heaven was a really nice touch considering how much of an impact he had on me in my life, particularly following Carlton. But I was having some serious run-ins with Kane Corns on Twitter. He was fresh out of playing footy. He just started working with SEN in South Australia, and he was coming across. He was either doing the show out of South Australia, but he was having Gerard Waitley's Friday time slot, and it was
Yeah,
called the
yeah,
Captain's
I
Run.
remember
Not
that.
quite
Yeah, I
sure if you
remember that.
remember. Yeah, and I'd had a couple of, yeah, they were kind of unsavoury sort of exchanges with him. He was pretty immature, and so was I, to be perfectly honest, and quite. He was having a lot of cracks at Carlton, and I was having to go back at him. And he had a segment on his show on a Friday called Mean Tweets, and he mentioned me a couple of weeks in a row. Someone sent me, the transcript, and it sort of went along the lines of it was very patronising, condescending. He read out my tweet, and then he said something like, "Heath works in the media for K Rock Football. He's a statistician. Keep going, Heath. You'll get there someday."
yeah,
That was like I thought,
yeah.
you smart ass. Like I wasn't speeding, but I thought I'll get you back, mate. Like I'll get you back. And I just happened to be that following week. I was working at Cadinia Park. We were doing a Geelong North Melbourne game. It was a long weekend, and Kane Corns was in the box next to us, working for SEN, and I was behind. I was sitting in the next box behind him, and he wouldn't know me like other than my name and the exchanges we had, so he wouldn't know me by face. And during the game, I did notice he had his laptop open as the game was going on. I didn't know what was on his laptop. It was probably stats. But at the end of the game, I put a tweet out along the lines of, if you're following SEN and you're following Kane Corn's special commentary, please ignore it. He spent the whole game scrolling through Twitter and did not lift his eyes onto the game. Anyway, it just went like people went fucking ballistic. Like they went ballistic at me first and foremost. Like, how dare I can say that? But at the same time, you can imagine people who didn't like Kane Corns loved what I
No,
said.
they were field day.
They had a field day, and he had to go back at me. I had to go back at him, and I thought it was sort of done and dusted then. I happened to be down at Ocean Grove at our caravan that weekend on the Sunday because it was a long weekend, and I was having a few beers with a couple of mates, and I went in to grab a beer from the fridge in our caravan, and my wife was in the caravan, and the phone rang. My mobile phone rang, and I didn't recognise the number. And by this stage, I was probably, I was a little bit pissed, and I thought I'll answer it. Like it could be important. So, and it was Kane Corns. He got my number, which was probably pretty easy to do. He got my number, and I originally thought it was a bit of a prank, but I did recognise the voice, and we went toe to toe. I'm not kidding. For about 40 minutes on the phone, back and forth. About
Really?
Raised voice. Well, I was a raised voice, and obviously from his end it was a raised voice. And like, I'm not going to go into a hell of a lot of details about what was said. But it came to the sort of conclusion that we would leave each other alone. But he just said to me, he said, "What are you doing, mate? Like, it's one, it's unprofessional, but two, why don't you do something? I mean, if you're so protective of Carlton and you think you've got a voice, why don't you do something about it? Like, instead of being a dickhead on social media, like, put your money where your mouth is." And I actually took that on board. I thought, yeah, why not? So I thought when the opportunity arose, I didn't know a lot about YouTube and starting up a channel. I thought, yeah, I'll do that. And since that day, he's actually been really supportive, like really supportive.
Yeah, awesome.
And, he often DMs me, I DM him. Like if he's going to interview an assistant coach from Carlton, he'll just sort of pop a message over, got any questions that I can answer. So that he's been great in that respect, but he was the reason that I suppose I started the channel, because instead of being an absolute prick on social media and so protective and so, I don't know, almost envious really that someone, like Kane Corns has got such a strong voice, then get out there and do something myself. And that's how it transferred. The funny thing about that story was when I went back out after the conversation with Kane Corns and I went back out to my mates, they said, what the hell was going on? If you had a blue with Louise, that's my wife.
Yeah.
And I said, no, I was been on the phone with Kane Corns, and they just laughed and thought I was taking the piss, but that's what actually happened. So long story short, mate, it was due to a really tough and hard conversation with Kane Corns. And I love what he does. Like, I don't agree with everything he says, but in regards to being someone who has the ability to engage an audience, I don't think there's many better in mainstream media than Kane Corns.
And you need that, because a lot of it is all vanilla these days. You know what I mean? You need someone to actually take a different path and a different approach, and actually making sure that they're getting the audience and people listening and being controversial really at the end of the day. And to your credit, to take that criticism on, I think was a benefit to you, because I think in a way you're similar too with some of the things you say and some of the things you do and some of the things you record. Because I hear a lot of your YouTube podcast or your podcasts. And he did give you a positive acknowledgement about your little snippet that went viral, and he did mention you on SEN.
Yeah, he did, and I mean that was probably the most pleasing thing, because I mean he could have just sort of said, "Look, I wouldn't know him from a bar of soap," but obviously, I think we'd all be stupid and naive not to think that mainstream media are now sort of looking at fan content channels to get more insight into clubs, because 100%. At the end of the day, like, if you're a journalist covering 18 clubs, it's near on impossible. So I've sort of stayed away from criticising mainstream media, because they've got a job to do, and it is very difficult. And that's why I think fan content, like, obviously, I think Carlton fan content's been at the forefront. I don't know. There's so many content creators now, but I think give it 2 or 3 years' time, I think most clubs across the league will have multiple sort of content creators following their club religiously, and I think it's the new way. And there's no doubt that mainstream media are latching onto this, looking at our channels, a few sneaky DMs, because it's almost like we focus on our club, don't we? We focus on our club so much, so we do have probably better knowledge than mainstream media, who have 18 other clubs to worry about.
Well, we do, because I think sorry, Maxie, just because we're absorbed in our club. We
Yeah.
breathe it. We live it 24/7. It's always like when you look at how many Carlton shows there are, and it just goes to show the size of the club and the popularity of the club, and people listen to this content.
Well, of course they do, and of course they do. And I think I suppose my mantra and my philosophy right from the start was one, to be myself. Like, it's pointless starting something and trying to be something you're not, because one, that becomes terribly exhausting when you're pretending to be something you're not, and two, I think people aren't stupid. Like, they can see through that. And I've crossed the line, there's no doubt. Like, in the 9 years I've been doing this, there's no doubt at times I've crossed the line. And look, to my credit, I've never deleted a video. Like, I've never thought, geez, I have to go back and delete that. There's been some things that I haven't been particularly proud of. But generally, what I like to do is acknowledge when I do get things wrong, and try and show that. I'm not everyone's cup of tea. I understand that. I've got a specific audience, but at the same time, I do at times show a little bit of vulnerability, which people appear to like. And it comes across as, I suppose, being authentic or realistic, whatever it is. And it's about, look, you guys will find this as you keep going and persevere with it. It's about building an audience, and you'll find that you'll get really loyal subscribers and followers. You'll get people who jump on and you might lose them. But at the end of the day, you don't necessarily have to, from my book, you don't have to ask for people to subscribe or like. If they like your stuff, they'll watch it. You know what I mean? There's no use getting on and begging for subscribers or wanting people to follow. Just put your content out there. People like it, they'll follow you. If they don't, they'll go somewhere else, because, as you said, Rocky, there's plenty of options. There's plenty of options with people with different styles and different methods, different demeanours. So I'm a certain part of that, with a certain style. Some people dislike me, some people like me, but that's just the way it is.
No, it's great. I mean, one question for you. How's your relationship with the Carlton Footy Club and the media team?
Look, I don't have... Yeah, it's an interesting one, because I've been doing this now for quite a long time. I think, just sort of going back, I think really it was pretty much started at the same time Terry did with Blue Report. He might have been, I think he may have even still been overseas when I started my channel, and he was sort of using Facebook, and then we got to know each other a little bit. But I was very reluctant to get involved with the club because I want to be my own voice, and I don't feel like I want the club to owe me anything, you know what I mean? Because it kind of will then sort of censor me or gag me, if you know what I mean. So I've never reached out to the club ever. I mean, I've sort of jokingly said once, I put an offer out there, I think it was last year, that I'd go to the club and volunteer my time as a recruiting officer, give me a bell. It was a little bit tongue-in-cheek, but at the same time, I'd love to work in that area. So they never rang me. Not that I expected them to ring me, but as far as me reaching out to them, asking for players to speak to or recruiting managers to speak to, or I've never felt the need to do that. Interesting thing, though, since I reckon Graham Wright came to the club, when I've been at open training sessions, the media manager has made a real effort to come over. In fact, the last session I went to, I didn't go to the last open training session, but the session before the training video came out, before it went viral, one of the media managers, Will, who's a terrific young fella, like a mad Carlton supporter, he actually came, he sought me out and came and sat with me for an hour, and we had a great chat about the club. He said if there's anything I ever need, gave me his phone number. He got my phone number. But as far as me reaching out for them for assistance with the channel, I don't feel like I need that. I purely want to be independent from that, if you know what I mean.
Yeah, that makes sense. I mean, you're your own voice, you're your own person. I think that's where you want to do. And like you said, I think you'll decide on who you want to get on your show, and if you want to get players on, I'm sure they'll come up if they when they see the popularity of your show and how many people you got on if they want exposure. But one question I've got for you is: did the club approach you or contact you after that video? No, they didn't say anything.
No,
Just because of what Adam Simpson said on SEN, tongue in cheek, I'd say. But
yeah, no, I think that was, to me, that was probably pretty deliberate on his behalf.
Yes.
Yeah, there's no doubt that the club would have probably sat down and spoken about it. And look, I've got to admit, when he did mention that, it wasn't a sense of guilt, because I think my intentions all along was it was a 35-minute training report, which I've been doing for the best part of, even before I started the YouTube channel. I was writing training reports and putting them online and on Twitter and stuff. So for someone, look, I've got no control about people coming onto my channel, but one thing I never do, I don't necessarily use Instagram, I don't do TikTok, I don't cut up my videos and promote them. I pretty much just chuck the content on the YouTube, and look, anyone's free to go on there and watch it. So it was somewhat, that was my video footage, that was my voice. I said all that stuff, but at the same time, it was kind of taken out of context. And I actually respect the fact that the club have probably moved on from it and didn't feel like a need to ring me or make contact with me. I would have actually been somewhat surprised if they did. At the end of the day, it's an open training session. They've invited fans to come in. We're not the only fan base that are filming bits and pieces of training. So I don't think there was a need on their behalf to contact me about that. So no, I've heard nothing. Does it make it awkward for me to go back to the next open training session? No. But what I will say to you, Rocky and Adam, is I'm not going to be a dick about this. Like, I'm still going to do my training reports, but I think just from a sensible point of view, I won't be doing any filming at the next open training session. That's the last thing I want to be doing is putting any attention on myself, because we're not the story here. Like, we're not, as much as I got some exposure from this, I did kind of feel uncomfortable about it, because basically it gets out there in that one little clip, and some people love it and a lot of people hate it, but it kind of paints me that I cut that up and I put that little section out there. But I want to kind of make it really clear. The people obviously who subscribe to my channel and follow my channel know it was a small part of a bigger training report where, for a lot of it, I was super positive. But unfortunately, I don't have any control over that. So it does kind of reflect a little bit poorly on me, because it looks like I cut that up and put that on TikTok or Instagram, when in fact someone went into my channel and then it just exploded from there. So
it's mature. It's mature. I think it's mature from you, Bucky, and I think it's mature from the Carlton Footy Club.
Yeah, I want to pay that respect to them, because it is. One thing to let us into training, and I know and I was big on this, I was very, very critical of the club for a long time about access to training for fans. And to their credit, they've opened it up. And I fully understand it's a closed stadium. So it's a little bit different to, Collingwood or Arden Street, where anyone from the public can just walk up. So you've got to have a level of security, because it is an enclosed stadium. We don't want people wandering over to the other side of the ground, having people everywhere. But at the same time, I don't want to abuse that privilege for the sake of me getting a few cheap likes. And I can still do a 30, 40-minute training report without any vision. And I'll still be critical if need be. That's not going to change, but I don't think I'm going to go in there and put any attention on myself and be openly got a camera out and filming training, because I think right now the best thing to do is just let it, because I feel like that's what a lot of people will expect me to do, and I won't be doing it. So
No, good on you. I mean, so tell us about Carlton for you. Tell us about, what they mean. I guess your history, how you become connected with Carlton, and then a bit later on we'll talk about where you think the club is right now.
Yeah, look, my parents were they were that came across from overseas in the late 60s. Mum was from New Zealand, Dad was from Wales, and both sports mad. You know, Dad obviously soccer, Mum rugby union. And as soon as they arrived in the west of Melbourne, they were just looking for a way to connect. You know, like a lot of migrants to Australia, a way to connect, and that was through sport. You know, cricket and obviously Australian rules football, because really they were the only two sports here. And Mum and Dad went to a game before I was born. I've got two older brothers who were both born in New Zealand, but I wasn't born yet. But Mum and Dad went to a game. It was a Carlton North Melbourne game at Arden Street, and they just wanted to go and watch, and basically whoever won that game, that's who they'd support. So
Oh,
that's
wow.
how and Carlton won, I think, quite convincingly, and Alex Jezelenko had a blinder apparently in that game. I think it was about 1967 or 68. So that's how, yeah, and obviously I was born into it. And it was just a religion really for our family. Like my two older brothers, Mum and Dad, we go literally every Saturday to Princes Park, and then we would travel. We would go to all the other grounds, whether it's Vic Park, Windy Hill, Arden Street, down to Cardinia Park. We were on the terraces every week, and it was. Mum and Dad didn't have a lot of money, so it wasn't social club or grandstand reserve seats, which you could get in those days. It was standing on the wing, you know, in the rain. Mum and Dad met people on the terraces who Mum still knows those people today. And my mum, who's 81, she was a little bit younger than my dad. She goes every week, even when us boys don't go, she still goes. So that's how my love for the club came, and you know, pretty much, you know, I was obsessed with the club from such a young age. Like, I know I mean obsessed. And then by the time sort of I got to late teens and then started playing footy, like serious footy myself, I did kind of drift away from it a bit. You know, when you're playing your own football every Saturday and you got like you do, I think it probably coincided with a pretty poor era for Carlton. I don't know if you remember.
Late 80s? Late 80s?
Yeah, that sort of 89 through to...
when Morsey got sacked.
Yeah, 91, 92. I didn't drift away because we were poor. It's just that I started playing senior footy, and you know what? I mean, you guys would have played footy before. You know what it's like on a Saturday, how preoccupied you are with your own.
And all the games are on a Saturday too.
Exactly right, mate. And and I was lucky enough to, all I ever wanted to do was play for the club. You know, like even as a young kid, like where I was from in the western suburbs, grew up in Hoppers Crossing, played junior footy at Hoppers Crossing, then went to Werribee, which is 5 k's down the road, and we were zoned to Footscray like that. And I was like, the last place I wanted to go play football was Footscray. You know, like so. All I ever wanted to do was get that chance to pull a jumper on, you know, like, so I was like any other kid, you know, like running around in the backyard after games until Mum called us in for dinner, just kicking a footy around and pretending I was my favourite player, who was Jimmy Buckley and Wayne Harms and the Dominator. Like it was, I was just so caught up in the game. It just occupied pretty much every minute of my life was about Carlton and the club, and it coincided obviously with a very successful period, and I suppose that helped as well. But I think it's more than that. Like it's the memories. It's the memories of what football meant to my family and meant to Carlton supporters.
Especially in the 70s too, and your parents being migrants as well, and then you got the Silvanis, the Jeselenkos, all playing. You know, you sort of tend to gravitate to those players because there's a similar path to coming to this country. They've all come via a ship, and they've all come to a plane. But they've come here, and you got to embed yourself in the community. And how do we get there? And then you can sort of associate or simulate that way with the club. And that's probably the connection too, which I'm quite surprised, being a Western suburb boy, how you didn't fall in the hands of barracking for the Dogs.
Yeah, well, Mum and Dad first moved to St Albans when they first arrived. I was actually born in Sunshine, and obviously houses at that stage down in the west were really cheap. And by that stage, Mum and Dad had already decided to barrack for Carlton, so that's how it worked. And once they decided, my mum's like pretty bloody stubborn, and she was never going to change because we were in the west. So, yeah, and I mean, I've got no hatred for the Western Bulldogs or Footscray, but like if it was a choice between an opportunity to go play for Carlton or the Western Bulldogs, like it's a pretty easy decision. Even in the lower grades, you know what I mean? Like,
didn't you pull on a Carlton jumper?
Yeah, look, the way it worked was because I actually ended up going to school in North Melbourne, the school called St. Joseph's College in, I don't know if you know.
Street?
Sorry?
Is it Victoria Street?
It's Queensbury Street, not
Queensbury Street. They went to the same school, Bucky.
You went there as well, Rocky?
Yeah.
What year, mate?
I was there in 91, 92.
Yeah, I was there in 85, 86.
Yeah.
So I went just year 11 and year 12, Rocky?
Yeah, just 11, 12, yeah.
Yes, and look, you'd know, mate, it was a massive football school.
Massive.
Like, it was huge. Like it was the competition in the mid-'80s. So when I was there, year 11 and year 12, it was almost like when you walked through into St. Joseph's, it was like, I think, similar to what APS is now. You know, like it was just full-on footy program, football every Wednesday against top quality Parade College,
Herald Sun Shield or something.
Yeah, and plus the Herald. So I was like, I didn't have to play at my local club. I just played at school. And from there, I was able to. I got an invite to go down to Carlton. So at the end of '85, when I've just turned 17, a letter arrived in the mail. They were obviously following Herald Shield. It was on Herald Shield used to be on TV and stuff. So
yeah.
I got a letter in the mail, invited me down to pre-season training for the under-19s, and I went down, like I was so excited but nervous, and I went down and it was like 80 teenagers there on, that oval. It was not even an oval, that sort of grass car park next to Prince's Park.
To it, yeah.
Not the footy oval on the right hand
side. No, the other side.
Left.
Yeah, and that's where we kind of did our pre-season training because the main oval was used for cricket. And I remember rocking up and it was hot and we were training like 3 days a week. I was at school and then getting the tram down Royal Parade to footy training like Monday, Wednesday, Thursdays. And the training was like next level, so hard. And I was a skinny runt and just, look, to be perfectly honest, I just battled through. But come this sort of March, and I was a bottom age player, but come this just before the start of the season, they gradually whittled that 80 down to the final squad of 35, and I snuck in. I snuck in my first year into the squad of 35. But it was tough going early. I didn't play my first game until around about round 8 against Collingwood out at Glenferrie Oval. So, which we got smashed in, by the way. Absolutely got our pants pulled down. But I played a fair bit in my first year and then went back again in 87 in my final year and pretty much yeah, and both were like super successful club and like I knew pretty early on, probably going into my second year, that it wasn't going to bode well for me. There just wasn't enough because the way it worked was if you were good enough, you would get a game in the reserves. Like if they were short or they had injuries, they'd bring up.
We won the reserves that year too, didn't we? No, 95.
Yeah, won the reserves. Yeah,
won the reserves. Yeah, we did.
Yeah, there were about 3 or 4, I think, under 19 players who played in that premiership. Phil Poisonides definitely played. He kicked 7 goals in that reserve grade premiership. There was a few others as well, but my invite to play in the reserves never came. And come the last game of the year we played North Melbourne out at Arden Street. We needed to win that game to play finals. And I just remember leaving the game and hopping in the car with Mum and Dad. And I just sort of said to them, that's it. Like, that's my time over. And they contacted me. At that stage, they had a connection with the Paran Footy Club, where Wayne Johnson was from. And quite a few of the under-19 boys would go across and play in the VFA with Paran. But I was living in Ballarat at that stage. I was at university up there. So that didn't really interest me. But I knew very early on that I wasn't going to play senior football. But just be able to put that jumper on, even at that
awesome.
level. And look, for those who are watching this and thinking, what the hell was the under-19s? Every VFL club had an under-19s, and it was pretty much the pathway.
Yes.
That's where you recruited your players from, either from the under-19s or from interstate. And Carlton were really good, obviously, at recruiting players from interstate, but that was the pathway. And it's similar now. And then the under-19s finished, and they scrapped that, and they brought the Coates Talent League in, which is, your Western Jets and your Oakley Chargers. So it's exactly the same there. It's the same. But I was lucky enough to at least put that jumper on, and train on Princes Park, play on Princes Park, and be coached by the great Jess Southby and David McKay in my first year. They were the co-coaches, and they actually got the sack at the end of 85. And then, at the end of 86. And then my second year, the club appointed Ross Henshaw, who was a premiership player at North Melbourne.
Yeah. Who was the best player that you played with in the 19s?
Well, Ian Aiken ended up becoming a premiership player in 87. So I played with him in 86. But I think the best player by far, and he was always going to make it. The moment he was about 18 months younger than me, was Fraser Brown.
Yeah.
And soon as so they got him from the Carlton suburb, like the zone out at, I think he was from Lilydale or Mooraba.
Yeah, Ringwood or somewhere out that way, wasn't he? Yeah, that way.
And that was Carlton's zone out that way. And I just remember when he walked in, like, he's 15 years old, and he was a bit of a man-child, but he just had that. I mean, he was so skillful. Like, and I know he had that reputation of being hard and tough and such a competitor, but there was not a better balanced player like that playing at that level than Fraser Brown. Could kick the ball equally as well on both feet.
Yeah.
Beautiful hands, great balance, a little bit slow, but read the play beautifully, but had the personality. Like, the personality, he was just, you just sort of
commanded the room. He commanded the room.
He did. And it was no surprise he went on to be a premiership player. And, I wouldn't say, he's a great of the club, really, when you think about it.
He was
and successful in business too.
Yeah, and it was very difficult at that stage if you were at Carlton in the thirds, trying to break into even reserves and senior football because they were so strong. But there are lots of players I played with who played less than, say, 10 games or less than 20 games. Adrian Bassett, Andrew McKinnon, just to name a few, Andrew Cavidan, Ashley Matthews. Like, there were guys that got a game, and that was that period, Adam, where you mentioned that 88 through to 92. But anyway, it was a great time, and I sort of kind of still pinch myself, to be perfectly honest.
Oh, it's amazing. You should be proud of that. So later in life, you come across this footy club at this TV show and this team called the Hammerheads.
That was real, because after I played 10 years at Bacchus Marsh in the Ballarat League, which I just loved, and then I sort of, like, my late 20s, I went back to Werribee and played for a team called Werribee Centrals. And it was a bit of a battle there early. We lost two premierships in a row when I first arrived there, and I'd never won a premiership. And I was sort of I was sort of hitting 30, and then we won 3 in a row. Like, we got a guy called Andrew Howlett who played one game for Footscray, but he was a champion player at Williamstown, premiership player at Williamstown. He came across, was our captain coach, and he stayed at Werribee Centrals for 3 years and coached us to a hat-trick of premierships. It was like, this is extraordinary. And then at the end of that, there was a few people leaving. They're like, I've been at Centrals, really enjoyed it, but I felt like retiring. Like, I felt like that was it. I had a young family, 2 young boys, and thought, that's it. Like, I get this really weird phone call off my brother, Greg, my older brother, who was the runner at Box Hill at that stage, and they just won a premiership in 2001 with Donald McDonald was the coach of Box Hill, and Greg got a call off Donald saying, can we have Greg Miller wants your brother's number, Heath. He wants your, and Greg goes, what who? You know Greg Miller, don't you?
North Melbourne.
Kangaroos.
He was the Kangaroos he was responsible for recruiting Wayne Carey, and he was a bit of a heavy hitter at that stage, but he left North Melbourne. And Greg rang me, my brother, and said, Greg Miller wants your number. So I've given it to him, and this was kind of before. I didn't have a mobile phone at this stage. Mobile phones were out, but I didn't, it wasn't like he could text me. So he rang my landline that night, and I thought it was a prank, but I recognised the voice. It was Greg Miller. And I had no idea about this proposal for a TV show, just no idea. And he pretty much sort of said, look, Channel 7 are going to have a reality TV show in 2002 because they've lost the rights. It's a way of keeping involved, local football. We're going to start a team from scratch. You've been identified, got your name, you played local footy, blah, blah, blah. And I'm thinking, what the fuck's this? And he said, do you want to meet me? And there was a guy, Steve Perkins, who was a producer at Channel 7, at JJ Holland Reserve for a meeting in, it was November or December before the season started. Anyway, I met them, and it was they were there, like Greg Miller and this executive from Channel 7, a producer, and they pretty much told me exactly what was going to happen. They really sort of glossed, they built it up to be this amazing thing, which it didn't quite eventuate to be that. But I agreed. They pretty much said to me, look, you need to go to the audition. If you agree to do this, you need to go to the auditions. We're running auditions at Marvel Stadium. We don't, at this stage, don't know how many people are going to be there who want to try out for this, but we're expecting a lot. We need you to be there because it was going to go across 2 days, a Saturday and a Sunday. But we can guarantee you that we'll get you through to the last 100. And I said, how's that going to work? And they said, don't worry, your name will be on the list. And I was interested in this because it sounded really exciting. I thought this was right up my alley. Anyway, I rocked up to Marvel Stadium on a Saturday. It was so hot, and it was 8,000 people there, trying out for this show, acting like absolute buffoons, doing some of the most ridiculous things, singing songs and all these personalities. And sure enough, come the end of the Saturday, they read out the 100 names, and they read my name out, and I pretty much did nothing for the whole day. I just sort of walked around. I didn't do any of the interviews. I didn't do the beep test. It was just, anyway, I went back, and cut a long story short, I went back the next day, and I got down to the last 50, and it was a very, very bizarre experience. One that I do look back on fondly. And we won a premiership, by the way. Coach
so that was in the Western region?
Yes.
Second Division Western region, which was pretty crap footy, if I'm perfectly honest. It was okay. The good teams are all right, but it dropped away. There was lots of teams in the comp. We were getting 5,000, 6,000, 7,000 people at games. It was like a circus. Coached by David Rees-Jones. Kekovich was the president. Bernie Evans, another former Carlton player, was the assistant coach. And I had a ball. I had an absolute ball. But by the time it got to, I reckon, about 4 or 5 games to go before the finals, I was cooked. I was cooked mentally.
Emotionally and mentally, yeah.
I was just draining. I was spending a lot of time away from home. I had a young family, and but by the time the finals came, I hung on, and we won it. We won it, and it wasn't it wasn't a Mickey Mouse win either. That we were up against teams that really wanted to win it, and they were kind of pissed off that we won it.
Who'd you play?
We played North Footscray.
Yeah.
And
the Devils. We lost 3 out of our first 6 games, and it was kind of manufactured like that. They sort of put in some pretty bloody ordinary footballers in that first 6 rounds. But once Rees-Jones decided that he's not going to, he went against, I suppose, what the producers want. He pretty much said, if I'm going to do this, I want to win a premiership. And we pretty much didn't lose a game for the rest of the season. And but we had a battle in that grand final. We were down at half time, and I think we only won by about 12 points, so it was a bit of a relief. But that celebration after that grand final, that lasted
like that lasted. Like some of the stuff I saw over the next 3 or 4 days, I could not repeat. Like I could literally not repeat to you guys unless we're in private.
Yeah,
Like
right. How good.
some of the shady characters that had somehow, because at that stage Reece Jones had a pub in Carlton. It was an Irish pub, the Canadian.
Yep,
Oh,
I reckon you might be right.
yes, I reckon you're not. I think
Yeah,
so.
and we were having quite a few sort of functions there and after game drinks, and he was running the bar with his wife, and some of the figures that were in that pub were just next level. Like I'm talking underworld. Like,
Yeah, right.
and somehow they latched onto the show and latched onto the celebrations and
Wow.
some of the just yeah. Look, I can't go into it, but
Yeah.
No, we won't go into it. But yeah, I can imagine. Well, being in Carlton, being a pub in Carlton, you're always going to get those figures. Back in that day, back in those days.
I just remember being introduced to someone in Reece's pub, and then someone said to me, "Do you realise who you're just talking to? Then who you just sort of like shook hands with? Like, do you know who that was?" Because I kind of looked away. I shook his hand and then looked away. I wasn't being disrespectful. I just wasn't like going to engage in a massive conversation and said, "Do you actually realise who that is?" And I went, "No." And then they sort of told me, and I went, and I didn't really recognise the name, but apparently it was some underworld figure. So anyway, good time.
You're still with us, Bucky, so that's
you could have
important.
been on Underbelly.
Underbelly.
Thankfully you weren't. Are you still connected with anyone from the Hammerheads or
only sort of loosely? Like obviously Craig Hutchison was he ran the show and he was great. Like he was only a young guy at that stage, but you could see he was going to make it big. But as far as the players go, no, we just all went our separate ways.
Yeah.
You know, like I did bump into one of the players last year at my son's footy game out at Craigieburn. His son was playing for the other team. I hadn't seen him since 2002. But as far as reunions go or anything like that, it's pretty much we just all went our separate ways, which is kind of unfortunate. It's funny. The funny thing is the Premiership Cup ended up in like 50 pieces that night after the grand final. Like it just ended up in about 50 pieces. So, yeah, and it was never coming back for a second year. We knew it was done and dusted. So it was a bizarre year. It was a bizarre year. Don't keep in contact with anyone, but there is that connection. You know what I mean? That connection that you're a part of something that probably will never happen again. So yeah, it was, and it opened a couple of doors for me as well. So
let's move to a different topic. Let's move to 2024 when Carlton were going pretty well up until probably until we played GWS when we were up by 7 goals, and then things went to shit from there.
Yeah.
There was a video, and I love this video, Bucky. I've watched it several times. This egg video.
Oh yeah.
What made you crack eggs on your head?
And once again, that was part of a bigger picture. And look, and once again, I'm probably naive to think that something like that wouldn't get out. But hand on my heart, like generally, I just put stuff out on YouTube and I just leave it at that. Like I don't cut stuff up. I don't like make little highlights and put them on Instagram and follow there. Like it's just the way I am. Like, I'm kind of a bit lazy that way. But the week before in the preview, like we were going, as you said, Adam, we were going like a busted arsehole. Like we at one stage there, I think we'd beaten Geelong, then Richmond, and we're premiership favourites. Like we were second on the ladder. And we just went downhill like that. You mentioned that Giants game. And I mean, you just look back at that and think, what the fuck happened to our football club in that period? Like, what the hell happened?
From the second quarter onwards, yeah.
Yeah, I guess, and almost like you can go back to that point and look at that game and go, how? Like, how can a club just implode? Anyway, cut a long story short, we get to that Hawthorn game and they're going really well by that stage. They were on a roll. Like, they started the season slowly, but they're building towards finals. Super talented young team, got great talent all over the park, and we're playing terribly. And in my preview for that game, I was going to do a preview and a review. and I like to focus on the opposition a fair bit in the previews. I just had this feeling in my gut, not based on any evidence, based more on the fact that we needed to win. It was the MCG. They may be due for a loss, all that type of stuff. Even though we were playing so poorly, and I just said we will win this game. Like I am 110% sure we're going to win this game. Like, and I'm never as confident like that. Like I'm never that bullish about in a pre. And I said we will win. Like I just said, I'm not even going to discuss this. Like this is a win for us, okay, to get our season back on track. And in fact, and if I don't, guys, I'm going to have egg on my face. Like I will literally have egg on my face. And it's been a running joke in some of my videos before that, you know, sometimes I have egg on my face. And I had actually cracked an egg on my face like the year before after I think I can't remember what game it was. So I had done it before, but just one egg. Anyway, when we got belted, guys, and you remember the game.
I was there. Yeah, it was hot.
Horrendous.
Yeah, falling down like flies. It was
it's
just
as bad as we've played in a long time.
Yeah, and I felt like shocking. One, I got it wrong, but two, I underestimated the opposition because they did a number on us. Like we were poor, but they annihilated us and played just every part of their game is what I wanted our team to be able to play: skillful, fast, methodical, you know, high scoring,
tough.
just everything. So I just thought to myself, no, I can't get on and do a review and not go through with this. So instead of just cracking one egg, I went to the supermarket and bought 13. I just thought of the idea, let's put the names of a lot of the Hawthorn players on who actually destroyed us, plus the coach. All these players I actually doubted from Hawthorn who did a number on us. And I just sort of took it from there. I actually set the room up, which I did the video. I had plastic on the floor and stuff, so because I knew it was going to make a mess. And I had, look, to be perfectly honest, I had no idea that it was going to do what it did. And I did tell a story, I think, on one of my episodes recently, that I got home that night from work and I knew it had gone sort of semi-viral by that stage because I got a phone call from a mate and he said, "Oh, Lewis, my son's just showed me a video and all his mates have seen it, like in this and that." And anyway, I got home and my kids, like I had two kids. I got four, but I had got two in high school at that stage, one in year 11, one in year 12. And they were kind of quiet. Like they were quiet. And I went to bed that night and they were still in the lounge room. I could hear them whispering out there, you know, like it was sort of whispering. And then my wife, Louise, said to me, "You know, the kids know about that video and they're really embarrassed. They want to go to school tomorrow. Like they're not getting, like they're
not getting bullied.
They're not getting bullied, but they're too embarrassed to go to school tomorrow. Like their friends are going, what the fuck's wrong with your old man? Like what sort of middle-aged man will get online and do something like that?" So I did, like, and I was worried a little bit about my workplace as well. Because I'm a school teacher. And but it actually went down all right. Like the school were fine with it. The kids were amazing with it. Like they just loved every minute of it. And it eventually blew over.
It was funny.
It
was funny.
It's kind of like the thing with that type of stuff that I do, and like it might come across a little bit as contrived, but like I didn't really think about it like too much. I just followed up on what I said in my review, and I went and bought the eggs, and I just did it, and then uploaded it. I didn't think about it too much. You know what I mean? Like
you probably thought about it, and then you thought, "Yeah, I'm going to go through with it." You just did
it.
Yeah,
I'm going to go through it. I'm going to upload it, and I'll deal with the ramifications if they come.
It's a reputation you've built for yourself, really. I mean, at the end of the day, you're a man of your word, and you know what you say, you pretty much do. So.
Yeah, the only problem with those, for about probably, I don't know, probably a good 6 months after that, I think a lot of people, you know, because I did get a fair bit of exposure and quite a few followers after that the expectation was that I would do that quite a bit. And I kind of mentioned in one of my videos that it's almost like being one of those bands that have one hit, you know what I mean?
Yep.
And they play a gig and everyone goes and watches their gig, but they're all they're bored throughout the whole gig and they're just waiting for that one song,
that one egg.
And that's kind of the way I was feeling about it. So I kind of felt like, even though it stuck, literally, it's stuck. And even Kane Corns and Sam Edmund mentioned it. And it has somewhat sort of gone into the background a little bit, and maybe the new training video is kind of taken over.
Taken over.
I think it made you a bit more lighthearted than potentially what you may come across, if that's fair to say.
Yeah, definitely. And as I say, like I everyone who does this, you guys will find out this as well, that you find your own voice, and you find your own following, and you find your own people who like what you do, and you just you've got to be yourself. And as much as that was lighthearted, it also showed a kind of tragic side of how much football does mean to you.
Especially Carlton supporters.
Yeah, and it was a fair bit of tragedy in that video as well. So it was kind of painful. And what I did find with it, that a lot of Hawthorn supporters jumped on and really actually appreciated the fact that I'd misread their team, and was so kind of sorry about it. But anyway,
was there no egg sponsors? No phone calls from the egg?
I did actually cop a fair bit of flack because it was at the time with the egg shortage.
Oh, yeah.
So eggs were, they were. There wasn't many around, so I'm smashing 13 on my head, and there's people out there who can't buy them. So yeah, I got a bit, particularly by a lot of women who sort of said, "What the hell's going on here?" Like, here's this bloke, there's an egg shortage, and he's
totally scrambled.
Yeah.
Let's talk about Carlton. Let's talk about Carlton right now. We know what's happened. We know the history. We know 2023 what happened. 24 we know what happened. 25 was just a write-off. Charlie's left, Teddy K's left, Jack's left. They've just sacked their recruiting manager. Graham Wright comes in, who seems to be doing good things, seems to be a positive vibe. Chris Davies seems to be an absolute superstar. A lot of positivity. Voss was on the summer sessions this morning. Really positive, different vibe about the place, which you could see a little bit with the women, and you could see a little bit in the last 4 games in 2025.
Yeah.
Obviously got a whole new players in. Jagger comes in, Harry Dean, all these young kids coming through. What do you think about Carlton right now?
It's twofold for me. There's the one about building the stability off field, which I think is so important. It's maybe something that should have taken place before we even started the rebuild. It's pointless bringing in top-end talent and all the draft picks and everything unless you've got your house in order. And I don't feel like just what's gone down. I know there's been on-field changes in terms of players. There's been a fair turnover this year. But if you talk about, some of the moves off-field as well, they're significant, and the appointments of 2 extremely smart football people in Graham Wright and Chris Davies is outstanding. And we might reap the benefits of that for a couple of years. Like, they'd be working their asses off at the moment, but I've got no doubt there'd be things that Chris Davies is seeing, because he's newer to the role than what Graham Wright is, that he doesn't like still. So I don't think it's all hunky-dory. I think they would be building positivity. They'd be buoyant going into the start of the season. Why wouldn't you be? But I still feel like there's changes to be made. I don't think the list is anywhere near good enough or complete. And I felt even that in some of the things, funny enough, ironically, that Mick Agresta said a couple of years ago, that when he was being interviewed by Cal Toomey and Riley Beveridge on Gettable, he said twice in 2 separate interviews that they felt like this was the start of their journey. And this was when we were pushing for finals and making prelims. Like, he said, this feels like the start of our journey. So I almost feel like that. I think there's been doubts on this list, Adam, for a period of time. And I still feel like Chris Davies coming in with fresh eyes is looking at this and feeling this isn't still good enough. And I know he was never part of a successful premiership team at Port Adelaide, but he was part of a footy club that that was consistently pretty good for a long period of time, if you know
Made
what I
4
mean.
prelims.
Yeah, exactly right. And they're bloody hard to win. I feel like 2023 we would have stolen that grand final, and the window closed pretty quickly.
Yeah.
I know we started 2024 okay, but I think the way we've imploded since midway through 24 suggests that even if we won in 2023, this was never going to be sustainable.
Yep.
It might have been a similar situation to the Bulldogs in 2016. They couldn't sustain that, although they did make a grand final against Melbourne during COVID. But I feel like it's so hard to say, boys, because it's
What do you
so
think's
many
missing?
things that.
What do you think's missing? You're saying the list isn't complete. What do you think is missing?
Oh, I think a lot's missing. I think key personnel down back. I know it's going to be potentially a more dynamic forward line with different options and a different style, but I still feel like we're short in key position stocks. And I feel like other than Jagger Smith, who I'm really excited about, I feel like that midfield's still pretty much one-paced and one-dimensional. And are we really capable of playing a quick transition style of football? Given my question marks about our overall skill level, we'll wait and see with that. I'm excited to see the way we play, but by the time, and I know we're banking on the future here because you have to, but so is a lot of clubs. You know what I mean? They're pretty much. You talk about Richmond, you talk about the Gold Coast Suns, and those teams that are building at the same time as almost feels like we're building for the future at the moment. And I've got no doubt Dean, Cody Walker when he comes. Who's the other one? We've got Jagger Smith,
Jack Ison.
Jack Ison. There's plenty of unknowns about those
Taylor
players.
Byrne.
Yep. But
Harry
those
Farrell.
guys are very, very young. And by the time they kind of come through,
Cripper.
there'll be no Akers, there'll be no Sard. Cripper will be right at the back end of his career. No Newman. Like, there's going to be a turnover. And I want to see, I still don't trust that middle range players and what we're going to get from the likes of Lockie Cowan. Not that I can't say they're going to go to the next level, but I'm not confident in that because that's what you need. And I'll put a video out. What are we going to be talking about in regards to that next crop of players? Or I see boys as kind of C grade. Yep. We don't need them to be elite All-Australian, but can they go to...
They need role players.
Can they go to a B grade, for example, like a very good AFL footballer? Now, I don't see Ollie Hollands, and I know they're young. I know Brody Kemp is only 24. He's only 25. He's only played 49 games. But we need that group to come through and become their next really good players for our club. So when they next group are coming through, Dean and Walker, and they are, if we think they're going to become stars, we could challenge in 2027 or 28, but I'm not convinced with that. And my other concern, guys, is I want the coach to succeed. I really do. But once again, I feel like we are reactionary, like just reactionary.
Mm.
You know what I mean? Like
on game day?
No, just with everything. Like we went
everything. The club.
Like we went to a contested side because that's what the AFL were doing. So it was all around contest because it was, Melbourne did it, and when they won in COVID, they were strong beyond the ball. They built their game off territory.
Richmond, Geelong.
Run-up football, didn't rely too much on it, but just territory, the territory battle through clearance, because that was in vogue. We were reactionary with that. And now it's almost like, well, that didn't work. Now we're going to kind of copy what Brisbane are doing, what other teams are doing with quick transition football.
Yeah.
I would love, and we don't know this, to when we do suddenly start playing, we are actually doing something a little bit different. I'm not saying revolutionary, but we are actually looking at our game plan and thinking, because I feel like if we're doing exactly what Brisbane are doing, I'm sure Brisbane are going to be doing something
else. They're evolving.
They're evolving.
Yeah. And so Sam Mitchell, let's be honest, Sam Mitchell is super creative, right? Yep. He'll have lots of little tactics up his sleeve.
Exactly right, mate.
That's what we're missing. That's what Voss misses. He's not strategic and he's not creative enough.
And I agree, mate, because what will happen is there'll be a predictability about what we're going to do now. It's very clear what we need to do. Like it's unless we're bluffing, because he said in that podcast today, the summer sessions, that it's going to be a different look with the way we
What
move.
have you seen at the match sims, Bucky? Have you seen anything different?
There's no doubt that we're moving the ball a lot quicker, using the corridor, getting the ball inside forward 50, giving the forwards, plenty of opportunities to get one-on-ones or find space. Smalls are staying at home a little bit more, not getting up the ground to work defensively. So you see the changes. My problem is that it's the opposition know that we're going to be doing it. You know what I mean? But we will need to do it really well. We will need to play this brand of football really well with exquisite skills. No mistake. Well, you're going to make mistakes.
Yeah.
But do you trust our decision making? I know we've brought in some quality, smart footballers with high IQ. Love Will Hayland. Really I always liked Ben Ainsworth. Always felt like he was somewhat underrated at the Gold Coast Suns. And I'm not quite sure what happened with Ollie Florin at Sydney last year, but he certainly fell out of favour. But what I've seen at match sim, he will be, with what Jacob Wiedering, our best defender. He will be our small general, and his ball use is very good. He's just calm with ball in hand, really calm. So I've got no problems with the players we've brought in. I think there's still an unknown of what Reedy can get to. I think they've invested a lot in him. I don't think it's big money, but 3 years, I like it. Don't get me wrong, I like it. I think there's enough there to think he could be all right. But what I'd like to see with Liam Reedy come the end of 2026, that we will be saying he's going past Mark Pitnet.
Yeah,
put it that way.
But
if he's running around in the twos, though, Mark Pitnet is. And look, don't get me wrong. If Mark Pitnet plays the whole year in the seniors and plays good football, and Liam Reedy can't pass him, then that's credit to Mark Pitnet. But at the same time, when you invest in a guy for 3 years, come across, you've lost TDK, and not only have we invested in him, I think we've kind of talked him up a little bit. He talked himself up, which I don't mind. He bases his game on aggression and mobility, ability to go forward. So there's kind of big raps on a guy that's played.
Well, Voss talked him up today too a little bit in that summer sessions.
Bit of an extrovert, 160.
Yeah, and don't get me wrong, we need them. But it's probably too much to ask him to come straight in and have a massive impact. But Toby Nankervis did it for Richmond when he first arrived from Sydney. Couldn't get a go there, came across, and he's similar types.
Similar type. Yep.
Liam Reedy's probably got a little bit more mobility and probably slightly better at kicking, but they're similar types, similar size, big, strong, aggressive protectors. And he made an immediate impact at Richmond when he arrived. So there's no reason why Liam Reedy can't, because as much as I feel like Pitnet's an honest ruckman, I think there's going to be a move away from being a contested footy team. So his strength is to provide the contest. I feel like it's not going to be a huge focus of ours. I mean, Voss will always say contest is really important, but I feel like mobility for us around the ground is probably going to be more important than
definitely. You're going to be able to move. You need leg speed. Two players that we haven't talked about. One's Elijah and one's Matt Carroll. Good raps on Matt Carroll this pre-season. Seems to have been a bit strong in the legs. Obviously playing up on a wing.
Yeah, I don't get excited about young players. I just feel like you just got to let them develop and not be overly critical. Sometimes it's really hard, but I feel like if there's any young player on a list outside of, say, Jagger Smith and Harry Dean, it's Matthew Carroll. I think he's just got everything you want in a modern day footballer. I just think he moves really well. I think he's added some speed to his game. I think last year he was a bit of a plotter, sort of, running a bit one pace, but he's certainly added that speed. Maybe he's got more confidence in his body. Very smart. He's an exceptional, reader of the play, whether it's a half-back or on a wing, uses it really well. Got that ability as a left-footer just to find space, find space. I think he's got potential to be an elite player for us, and that could come as early as this year. I think he's a shoo-in for round one. I've seen teams, guys, without him in it. I mean, even from Carlton supporters.
I've done a team without him in it.
Yeah. And maybe I've got it wrong. Like, maybe I'm overrating him. And this is not just based off, one match sim where he kicked 3 from a wing. This is based off a guy that is highly skilled.
Yeah.
Highly skilled.
That's great news. I mean, if he can be another Massim D'Ambrosio.
Yeah. And a similar story, mate, because both came in the hard way. Like, Massimo was very unlucky not to be drafted. Like, he was a superstar at the Western Jets, but for some reason, I've got this thing about the Western Jets.
No, you have. I've heard it on your cast.
And I feel like, even someone like Logan Morris, who's proving to be like a nightmare for clubs who didn't take him. For some reason, they just, the boys from Western, even like Christian Cherry, who went really late in the draft, like he's one of the best rucks in the comp. Look, but he's a similar type player, Matthew Carroll, to Massimo. Great left foot, very, very creative. I think Massimo is probably more explosive at this stage, but like, he's probably a little bit older. But I've got no doubt in my mind that he's going to be there round one. Like, and I've got doubts whether Newman's going to be ready. So, I love it.
He's done no match sim, has he, Newman?
Done nothing, mate, since we've been the match sim.
He'll play Brisbane next week.
Yeah, and the other guy,
Matt Carroll just done his hamstring. Thanks, Harvey. He's done his hamstring. Matt Carroll, apparently, Miss Cleary reporting he's done his hamstring today.
Kidding me?
Yeah. Well, that's just devastating, and that may be off the back of Lockie Cowan doing his calf.
Yeah.
Anyway, but the other guy is an exceptional talent as well. Like, is
he playing against Sydney?
Oh, I think if he's on the list, he plays. Like,
is he on the list?
What
are your thoughts?
I said at the back end of last year, I felt, and I probably got it wrong, but I was kind of critical of the club in regards to he arrived from the Gold Coast Suns with some trouble. We knew that. The club were open about that. He got I think it was a 1-year contract. They reduced it from 2 years to 1 year when he arrived.
Yeah.
Which was a good move. He had to prove himself, and within 8 weeks, he was playing good footy. Like, you remember that start of 2024, he was playing really well.
Yeah, he was.
Awesome.
But they signed him to a 2-year contract, like 12 weeks into. And I just thought to myself, man, you took a year off him when he arrived so he could earn the trust and respect. And now, halfway through his first year, he's played some good footy. You sign him to a 2-year contract. Couldn't you wait to the end of the year? So I was sort of critical on the club. Why sign him to a 2-year contract if you knew there was some issues with him? Then you really needed to see him, grow as a person. I just think there's going to be an element of risk. They're going to have to make a decision, and I think it will go in his favour. But there's going to be such an element of risk with Elijah Hollins. You know what I mean? And I don't think they can sit here and go, we need to be convinced. I don't think they will be convinced, but they're going to have to make a decision.
Well, I mean, we haven't got players of his skill within this team. I mean, seriously. I mean, the ball use, the way he uses the ball is amazing.
Yeah, exactly right, mate. But yeah, I just feel like they'll probably get to a situation where they've got to. I think it's the 24th. I think they've got to finalise.
It's been extended. I think
it's been extended to the second
of March.
2nd of March. Yeah, right.
And on ability, he's in. And I mean, I'm not a massive Will White fan. I know he plays with a lot of passion and a lot of energy, but I just don't see a spot for him. But whether there's someone else that they can, I
wouldn't be surprised if Ethan Phillips got a.
I kind of agree, mate. As a safe bet, considering that there's I feel like now O'Farrell, and I'm sort of worried about a little bit. And I know he had a good year last year coming across from the Giants. Haynes.
Hey,
Yeah, done
You
his
know, he's had
calf.
an interrupted pre-season. He's got this
Had
injury
surgery.
now, and it just feels like now, you know, like, what is he, 34, 35 years of age?
yeah.
And Ethan Phillips is such a solid citizen, and very, very reliable. Yeah, I don't know. I mean, he was the VFL best and fairest winner, dominated that competition, so he can play. It's either him or there's a boy training at the moment, Wade Dirksen from GDL, from the Giants. He signed with Montmorency in our VFL team as well. So there's an option there as a 196, 197 key defender, key back. Like he can play forward as well. So
Melbourne went cold on him, though. Melbourne went cold on him. So I mean, because Melbourne were really keen on him.
on Wade Dirksen.
Yeah, Melbourne were
Yeah,
really keen on him.
yeah. I'm not quite sure the story there. In regards to, I don't know a hell of a lot about him, to be perfectly honest. I mean, the day I went and watched training and matched him, he didn't do a lot. Like, it wasn't like he, you know, you looked at him and thought, shit, this guy's impressive. It was pretty sort of stock
I
standard.
think you got a reward effort, and Ethan Phillips, I think, does deserve a call up. To be honest with you, that's
Yeah,
my
and it's probably looking likely now that Harry Dean will debut. Like,
yeah.
if they're
Has
all
to.
fit, Haynes and Newman,
Cowan.
and he might be struggling. You know, he might be struggling to get game. They might be a little bit conservative with him. But with no Cowan there now, if he's got a calf injury, there's no doubt that Harry Dean is probably going to debut against the Sydney Swans, particularly if he puts together a couple of solid practice games.
Yeah.
He's going to have to. I mean, I think you're right. We touched on earlier. I think our list, I feel like we're a key defender short, definitely. Obviously, a key forward short, and probably another midfielder, at least. You know what I mean? So, yeah, it'll be interesting to see what round zero looks like.
Yeah, I mean, I wish these two practice games, and I know we'll overanalyze them and we'll talk about them and we'll probably overreact, and you know, even if we play really well, we'll probably get ahead of ourselves, and if we play poorly, it'll be doom and gloom. That's just the way it is. That's what we do. But I kind of wish we just get stuck straight into the season, into that Sydney game when the real stuff starts, because I'm just fascinated to see how we turn up for that game.
Yeah.
You know, I don't think the club have put a lot of expectations on this year, but what they have kind of expressed to us is the energy and the change.
Yeah.
So this can't be a situation, even if we lose against a pretty bloody hard place to play footy over there.
Shocking.
This can't be a typical predictable calm performance in the opening round. You know what I mean? You know those on the road predictable calm performances. Maybe get out to a couple of goal lead early, bit off to
and then lose by 5 goals,
and then just lose their way with poor skill and just get overrun. Like, it can't be that. And play the same way, you know, kicking down the line.
If they play like they did in the last 4 games last year, we'll be happy. We'll be happy.
Yeah, no, look, I'd be happy if we made a decision, you know, like pretty early on, that we're going to really invest, because this is what happened, mate. Like, we invested in the young players at the end of the year. Like, we invested in them.
So you got to play them.
Cooper Lord, Matthew Carroll, you know, Billy Wilson.
Frank the Tank.
Frank the Tank. Yeah,
all right. We've got one last segment, Bucky. Yep. Are you ready for it? It's called Quick Hands. I'm going to fire some quick questions. So we want quick answers back.
Okay, mate.
Rocky loves this segment. Best recruit in 2026 for the Blues?
Best recruit in 2026 for the Blues? I'm going to go Ollie Florent.
Harry Dean playing round 0? I think you probably think.
Yes.
Cripper still captain?
1 more year.
How many goals for Harry?
Oh, Jesus Christ. Ideally over 50, but I'm going to go 42.
How many for Frank?
31.
31 for Frank.
I love Frank.
I love Frank. And how many for Moya, who we haven't spoken about once?
Yeah. Geez, I don't know.
He's almost been forgotten.
Yeah. And he hasn't been overly impressive in the training I've been to, which is okay, because sometimes you just like, remember we built up Jesse Motlop last year?
Yeah.
Oh, Jesse this, Jesse that, Jesse this. Like he's going to, like, so I feel like he's gone under the radar, which is a good thing. But I'm thinking, look, he'd have to play, look, you'd hope he plays most games, but I'm not thinking much over 25. I'll go 23.
I think that's a fair return. The most improved player.
I'd love to say Billy Wilson. I'd love to say that he's going to get a regular opportunity and become great ball user. I just feel like he needs to believe in himself. But I'm going to go with Matthew Carroll. In fact, I'm going to go with a real dark horse here because that's pretty predictable, Matthew Carroll. I'm going to go across the board in the VFL as well and might get an opportunity this year in Rob Monaghan.
Rob Monaghan,
Wow,
the
Rob
Irishman.
Monahan.
Yeah, I've seen a few things at training. They're training him up as a tagger. He's got some terrific pace. He's really improved. Whether he'll play much football this year, but I feel like if he does play football this year, it means he's really improved, like really improved.
Yeah.
And I feel like the club like him because of his athletic traits, and he kind of reminds me of the two Irish boys from Geelong. They took a little bit of time, but they eventually made it because they're highly disciplined and they're fast. They're fast,
Even Connor Nash from Hawthorn.
Exactly right. So I'm going to go Rob Monaghan as a smoky.
The Blues will finish.
Thank God there's a top 10. I'm going to go 10. I'm going to go 10. I think we're going to I think 10th. But it wouldn't surprise me if we're not 10th. Like I can't see us finishing much higher than 8th. Put it that way. I just think the competition's too tough. Not only is it too tough, I feel like also that you've got teams like St Kilda, who I think you'd think they're going to bloody improve. Like they think they're going to improve. Even Richmond, I think they're going to improve. So I think
Melbourne might improve.
I think the Bulldogs will be better than what they were. So I'd be very surprised if we finish above 8th. Very surprised. And that's not even being negative because we're going to have to, I think we can improve from last year, which wouldn't be too hard, but not enough. Not enough. I just don't think the consistency and the depth and the quality is there at either end of the ground. I think our midfield is serviceable enough to keep us in games and be competitive. But either end, I've just got doubts. And with a new game plan and teams picking it apart if the skills are not on, I just don't want it to get messy.
Last question. Will Voss be coach in 2027?
I'm going to say yes. Even though on the doesn't have to be making finals, but on the provision that we get significant growth from, one, the game plan, obviously, but two, from players from the next crop. So I'm talking about the likes of Billy Wilson. I'm talking about Matthew Carroll.
You've got to see the next group come up.
I'm talking about Ashton Moyer, that we get Cooper Lord, that we're getting that development, that growth, and we can see it. We can see it because history says that a lot of our younger players are coming through stagnate.
Yeah.
They show a lot early and then they stagnate. Paddy Dow's probably a perfect example of that. I know Voss didn't coach Paddy Dow, but I think you know what I mean. It's almost like they come in, they show something and go, wow, and next thing you know, they just stagnate. And if he's creating, he said it on the summer sessions today, if he's creating an environment, that's his job for individuals to grow and get better. We need to see that.
We do. A lot of pressure on Vossi this year, probably more so than any other coach I would have thought in the AFL.
Yeah, and I want him to succeed because
he's likable, right? He's
terrific. Well, he's I can imagine how good he is to be around.
He smiles in press conferences. He smiles.
Yep.
He's engaging.
Yep.
He demands the room. People like him.
Yeah, and this is why I hope, if that's what the club think, that he's a great manager, as in like a people's person and a leader and all that type of stuff, that they've got the right people around him. Because it's not just him who's coming up with the tactics. Like I know it's all lumped on him, He's, I hope the other guys, I hope that Josh Fraser is the new Ford coach or whatever he is. I hope that Ash Hanson's as good as what people have said he is over the last 3 or 4 years. And this new game style, we're
going to find out.
We're going to find out. Yeah.
All right. Bucky, you've been first class tonight.
Thank you.
We really appreciate you coming on and being so kind with your time, but also being so transparent and so authentic.
Thanks,
It's been really good. We're obviously new into this, and listening to guys like you, we learn a lot. Firstly, but secondly, we love what you do in the media space. Carlton's better for it, and so are the supporters.
Thanks, Adam. Thanks, Rocky. Look, I honestly appreciate you reaching out first and foremost, Adam, and I had no problems about jumping on, and obviously love talking about the club, and as you probably know, I love talking about myself as well. So,
but don't change, Bucky. Don't change. You report a difference in this landscape, mate. I'm telling you.
Look, best of luck, guys. Like, just I don't necessarily have any advice other than just keep going with it. Just be yourselves. Have
bit of fun.
Have some fun with it. Watch it grow and don't give up on it, because you've got a good show going on. You're very smart and very knowledgeable, and people will gravitate to that if you just give it time. Give it time. And I'll guarantee you're going to get about 5,000 views for this video. If you put it out there. All right, guys.
That's good. Thanks,
Bucky.